Does the idea of a hung parliament and a small majority for the Conservative Party, does that kind of get rid of any kind of calls to get a rate hike?
Well, I didn't buy the calls for a rate hike, as you can imagine, in the first place. Clearly, there is an issue of rising inflation, and we've seen that since the pound fell, but the economy is obviously slowing. Slowest growth in the UK amongst the G7 or amongst the whole of the EU 28. Andrew, of course, is right in saying that if you take the 12-month, he's been saying this, if you take the 12-month growth path, it doesn't look that bad, but the momentum of the economy is very weak. At the very least, I think what you'd be doing is sitting, waiting and watching to see what works out, and worry about the downside risk. So I think it's waiting and watching mode. I don't think they're going to do anything for a bit, but the next action is probably a cut and stimulus rather than a hike. Yeah.
So Andrew Sentance.
But you would expect me to say that.
Yeah, I would. We can have that on pre-record and just keep playing it out, Danny Blanchflower. A hung parliament, no majority for the Conservative Party. She has to form a government with the DUP over in Northern Ireland to get a slim majority, a working government. Andrew, for the UK economy now, do you have any kind of clarity on what the picture is going to look like over the next 1-2 years?
Well, the main thing, if we're talking about monetary policy, is the Bank of England's independent, and it has to look through all this political volatility. If anything, they overreacted to the Brexit vote. I don't think it was the right thing to cut interest rates, and there's a danger that they hold off from raising interest rates, which I think we're seeing happening in the US and is justified by the UK situation because of, political volatility. I think if you talk about the 1 to 2 year outlook, I think there are a couple of other important issues. One is the Brexit discussions and how that affects business confidence. I think actually we're likely to have a more intelligent Brexit as a result of this election result. Parliament is going to be more engaged because it's a hung parliament.
Yeah.
So that's probably a positive thing. Fiscal policy is probably going to be a bit more relaxed because it's going to be influenced more by the other parties. So I think the general sort of picture for the UK economy doesn't look any worse in the short term, but the big medium-term risks of getting a bad Brexit deal are still there.